Les tomó 45 años compilar este tesauro, teniendo ya el OID a la mano. Bien. Y fueron tan gentiles en darnos permiso para conectarnos al diccionario. De manera que en su forma ya terminada, esto es lo que se llama un mock-up, o sea, es como lo que estamos tratando de lograr. Pero una vez esté funcionando, va a conectarse con el tesauro y eso le permite a uno explorar los campos semánticos en inglés. No va a decir cuál es el campo semántico que uno necesita, eso lo tiene que hacer uno, es una cuestión de juicio filológico del que usa el aparato, pero le da uno acceso a todas las posibilidades del tesauro. Bien, esa es una dimensión. Entonces, la otra dimensión que no aparece clara aquí es que ya tenemos una base de datos para los textos budistas en sánscrito clásico, con la venia de mis colegas que hablaron de eso esta mañana, que es esencialmente textos de la era Gupta en sánscrito, textos budistas, así que no incluye nada que sea llamado sánscrito budista, whatever that means, ¿no? Y esa base de datos es nuestra base, pero el instrumento digital como tal se puede utilizar con cualquier base. La idea es que el usuario cree su propia base. ¿Bien? Les advierto que crear una base de datos en lexicología es una obra de sacrificio máximo, son horas y horas de trabajo. Tenemos dos ayudantes que nos ayudan. Uno es mexicano, que fue mi estudiante de doctorado, Roberto, trabaja para nosotros, Roberto García, y tenemos otro doctorado desempleado, lo que se llama en japonés Ronin, un samurái que no tiene amo, que es italiano, que se llama Giacomo Benedetti. A los que nos gusta la literatura del Cono Sur, pues ya saben, Benedetti, ¿no? Y pues trabajan muy duro los dos y están trabajando en la base de datos. Lo que les voy a enseñar ahora es cómo se ve la base de datos, un ejemplo, ¿bien? Y luego les voy a enseñar el instrumento digital que se va a utilizar para analizar esa base de datos o cualquiera otra. ¿Bien? ¿Está clara la idea más o menos? ¿Sí? Bueno, entonces esta es una de las entradas para la base de datos y los componentes se pueden ver ahí. El primero, desde luego, es la palabra como tal, que está en ese color ahí como lila o violeta. Entonces aparece en sánscrito, que es el punto de referencia. Lo demás son adornos. El punto de referencia es sánscrito y sánscrito clásico. ¿Bien? Así que, por ejemplo, el Pali no se incluye en la base de datos, aunque se puede mencionar en el análisis que se haga. Eso es cuestión de ser riguroso, porque uno no puede suponer que porque significa algo en Pali lo va a significar en el sánscrito budista. Eso hay que demostrarlo, ¿no? Entonces aquí la palabra es Vedana, que todos ustedes la conocen, y en este caso tienen el tibetano, Sorwa, y tienen el chino en varias versiones, porque los chinos pues se tomaban ciertas libertades, ¿no? O sea, tenía a veces más de un equivalente. La primera parte de la base de datos es un trabajo ya de análisis que hace el que construye esta página, y es lo que se llama discriminación de los sentidos, sense discrimination, que quiere decir, pues uno dice cuántos son los sentidos posibles basándome en los textos que tengo. Y tenemos un corpus de unas 25 obras, y parte de la labor de estos grandes héroes, Roberto García y Giacomo Benedetti, es revisar completamente esos textos para cada vez que aparezca la palabra Vedana, o Vedanaya, o Vedanaya, o todo eso lo tienen que hacer, así que imagínense el tiempo que toma. ¿Bien? Entonces, una vez hacen eso, traducen esos pasajes y entonces tratan de determinar cuántos sentidos puede tener. Cuando se hace sistemáticamente es de maravillas, porque ahí es donde uno se da cuenta, estas palabras pueden significar tantas cosas, ¿no? Y en los libros de budismo, pues siempre dice, esto es, y tiene su equivalente en inglés, y ya me fui para casa. Y no es tan fácil, es mucho más complicado. ¿Bien? Así que ese es el sense discrimination, que incluye, esta es una página terminada, ¿no? Ya incluye referencias a literatura secundaria, eso todavía no se ha hecho en muchas de las entradas. ¿Bien? Ahí puede reconocer los nombres de Schmidhausen y de Fetter y toda esa gente. Entonces, después de eso tienes ejemplos que representan los diferentes significados. ¿Bien? Entonces, en este caso incluimos algo del Pali, hay razones para incluirlo, pero las entradas más importantes son del sánscrito. Esto es una muestra de lo que está en la base de datos. En la base de datos están todas las citas que se han encontrado. Entonces, después de eso, fíjense lo largo que es, el trabajo que da, ¿no? Después de eso, entonces tenemos los campos semánticos. Esto no incluye lo que ya va a estar incluido, por razones que les voy a decir en un segundo, y no incluye los números del Historical Thesaurus. HT es Historical Thesaurus. Pero va a incluir los números. ¿Por qué queremos los números? Porque pues, las computadoras son un poquito lentas cuando se trata de las sutilezas del lenguaje, pero cuando se trata de números, ¿no? Entonces, como va a aparecer, va a ser el número y el campo semántico en inglés al lado. ¿Bien? Bueno, entonces, después de eso, tenemos lo que se llama las relaciones de sentido, que lo que quiere decir eso es sinónimos, antónimos, cognados, palabras con sentido analógico, etcétera, etcétera. ¿Bien? Ahí lo pueden ver, por ejemplo, en Vedana, pues Vedaita es como todos los sinónimos, aproximado, ¿bien? Sinónimo aproximado, Vedana, neutro también, etcétera, etcétera. Luego viene la etimología. Si se fijan bien, es el tipo de cosa que un buen traductor va a considerar. No para todas las palabras, porque nunca haría nada, pero para las palabras claves hay que hacer todo este tipo de análisis. ¿Bien? Etimología, entonces, equivalentes clásicos, que quiere decir, pues, equivalentes en chino, en tibetano, en pali, y a la larga se encuentra en Gandhari, eso todavía falta, ¿no? Son todavía las lenguas principales budismo canónico. Luego equivalentes que han propuesto otros traductores. Bien, eso no es tan importante para la base de datos, pero a la larga va a estar ahí. Ven todas las variantes en las traducciones. Y luego entradas en diccionarios clásicos, Berkeley Roth, el Polytext Society Dictionary, Edgerton, etc. Bien, entonces a ver, algunas notas, y ahí lo que quiere decir es que esta entrada la hice yo, cada persona tiene su abreviatura. ¿Bien? ¿Está claro hasta ahora? Esa es la parte más obvia, porque es lo que hacemos, lo que tenemos que hacer todos, ¿no? Ahora, lo que les voy a enseñar es pues el mock-up, o sea, una simulación de, a ver si me acuerdo dónde lo puso, el Semantic Tracker como tal. Entonces pueden ver cómo funciona. Y ahí les quiero advertir, tiene unas cositas que son, como dicen en inglés, very sexy, ¿no? O sea, que son unas gráficas y todo eso. Eso no es la parte más importante. De hecho, si no nos dan la beca que pedimos, no se va a hacer. Porque es una cosa que quizá puede ser útil, pero no es tan importante como el análisis lexicológico como tal. ¿Bien? Entonces ahora se lo voy a poner, esto está en YouTube, por cierto.
Preview of the Semantic Tracker, forthcoming application of the Buddhist Translator's Workbench. The Semantic Tracker is a linguistic annotation and visualization tool for studying how words are used in different contexts, periods, and languages. It can be applied to a wide range of disciplines. A translator may use this tool to compare the meanings and applications of an expression in the source and target language. A social scientist may explore how different populations use a cluster of near-synonymous words. A historical semanticist might investigate how the use of the same cluster of words changed over time. Regardless of the specific research question, studying words typically requires the following steps. First, you need to establish which word or group of words to study and which sources to use. Then you need to collect instances of the chosen words in your sources and study their meaning and usage in the passages you have collected. The Semantic Tracker models and systematizes this workflow. We've prepared 2 miniature case studies for those interested in learning more. Our first case study demonstrates how the Semantic Tracker can compare the words migrant, immigrant, and refugee in the British press and readers' comments. Our second case study demonstrates how the Semantic Tracker can compare Sanskrit words to find possible translations into English. Specifically, we will be interested in finding possible translations of the verb root clip in Buddhist literature. Both of these case studies can be viewed by selecting the corresponding link. Thank you for your attention and support.
Bien, ¿está claro hasta ahí? Entonces, el caso del inglés es relativamente sencillo, lo hizo mi colega. Somos dos directores del proyecto y ella lo hizo basándose en revistas inglesas. Ella estudió en SOAS, así que pues enseguida piensa en lo que sale de Inglaterra. Analizando la manera como se usan las palabras refugiado, migrante, inmigrante, con las connotaciones que tiene. Es una cosa básica, la base de datos es pequeñita, pero da un buen ejemplo de cómo funciona. El segundo ya es para sánscrito, entonces ya se vuelve un poquito más complicado. ¿Bien?
Welcome to a demonstration of the Semantic Tracker, a forthcoming application of BTW. In this video, we will simulate using the Semantic Tracker to explore the usage of a cluster of near synonyms in English. In particular, we will study how the words migrant, immigrant, and refugee are used in the British press and readers' comments. The objects of our investigation are 2 newspaper articles reporting on the same piece of news, one from The Guardian and one from the Daily Mail, and their online user comments. First, we create a private account within BTW to use the tool. Once we have accessed the Semantic Tracker, we need to tell the software which language we are working in the primary focus of our investigation. We want to work with English and research migrant along with immigrant and refugee. Now let's add another language to enable interlingual comparison. Let's choose to work with Italian and analyze the equivalence of our words. However, we will not demonstrate the interlingual capabilities of the Semantic Tracker in this video. Now that we are clear on the focus of our research, we start collecting citations that illustrate how our words are used in context. To this end, we search the sources that we want to draw on. In our case, a search for the words migrant, immigrant, and refugee on the websites of The Guardian and Daily Mail. When we find a citation that we want to use in our study, we can input it into the Semantic Tracker and tag it with metadata, such as which newspaper it comes from, whether it is taken from an article or reader comments, and so on. In this way, we gradually create a personal database of citations for our research. Once we have collected and added metadata to all the citations that we want to study, the tracker organizes them into collections. Let's open the collection that contains citations for migrant in the Guardian's user comments. From here we can start annotating. Let's have a look at the first citation. Here, migrants is the subject of the verb swarmed. We can mark this relationship using the annotation menu. Let's now turn our attention to the verb swarmed. This verb conveys important information about how migrant is used here, because it has a negative connotation. Let's record this information. Next, we may want to annotate the meaning of the verb swarm in this citation. The Semantic Tracker allows us to record the meaning of words using the conceptual categories of the Historical Thesaurus of English. Let's pause for a moment and look at this resource. Like any thesaurus, the Historical Thesaurus of English lists words by the concepts they express. What makes it unique are its scale and the level of specificity of its conceptual categorization. The Historical Thesaurus of English arranges all the words contained in the Oxford English Dictionary in a fine-grained conceptual taxonomy that ranges from very general semantic fields such as the world, the mind, and society, to increasingly specific semantic categories. For example, inside the field the world, we find 17 categories, including matter. Inside matter, we find further headings such as color. And inside color, several categories related to pigmentation and chromatic concepts, including the names of the colors, like white, black, red, etc. We can even explore further subcategories inside the field white and retrieve concepts such as whitishness, brilliant whiteness, silveriness, etc., containing words like milkiness or ivory. The Semantic Tracker uses the categories of the historical thesaurus of English to annotate the meaning of words in our citations. Of course, words take up different semantic nuances depending on their contexts, and the historical thesaurus of English can only offer an abstracted representation of their meaning. This is why the Semantic Tracker offers the possibility of customizing the categories of the historical thesaurus of English to capture the various shades of meaning that words acquire in different contexts. Let's return to our example and see how we can use the categories of the historical thesaurus of English in BTW to represent the meaning of swarm in our citation. Let's open the semantic field workbench and search for a semantic category to represent this meaning. From this workspace, we can query the historical thesaurus of English and view a map of its conceptual taxonomy. Let's start by searching the thesaurus for fields that contain the words swarm or surround. Our search returns 15 results. We need to choose those that better fit the meaning of swarm in our citation. Our passage is about a journalist who finds herself in the midst of a crowd of migrants who were crossing the border. So we should probably choose the semantic categories amount to a quantity, abound.
No sé si notan una ventaja del tesauro, que algunos en español lo tienen, ¿no? Es que se puede ir de la idea a la palabra o de la palabra a la idea, ¿no? Lo que se llama onomasiológico y semasiológico, y están integrados los dos. Y es importante porque uno puede empezar con una palabra en particular, como en este caso swarm, o puede empezar con una idea, ¿no? Aglomerarse, por ejemplo. Entonces va a buscar esa categoría y ahí va a ver las palabras. Así que se puede trabajar de las dos maneras. Bien.
And surround, lie around as people in crowds. Both of these semantic fields seem to closely fit the meaning of swarmed in this citation. So let's add it to a list of potential candidates. The semantic category move in a certain direction, move back and forth, come and go in great numbers, seems to also fit the meaning. But we are not certain. Let's explore it further to see the words it includes and its specific position in the conceptual taxonomy. The chart shows the relationship between this specific type of directional motion and other kinds of movement, such as transference or progressive motion. In this section, we can see the words that the thesaurus assigns to this category, such as flock, swarm, etc. We can also see which words we have already assigned to this category in our project, namely team and overrun. If we think this field is suitable, we can add it to our potential candidates. To review the list, we go back to the annotation menu of our citation. Here, we decide which fields to assign to swarm. Let's select the first two. The semantic annotation of this word has been relatively easy. The semantic categories assigned to this word in the historical thesaurus of English describe the meaning of swarm in our citation fairly accurately. Our next citation, however, proves more challenging. Let's view the citations for the word refugee taken from the Daily Mail comments. Here, the word refugee is modified by the adjective desperate. The meaning of this adjective seems to lie at the intersection between the concepts of anguish and hopelessness. Let's search for semantic categories that capture it. A search for the words desperate, anguished, or hopeless returns 10 results. However, none of these fields describe the semantic nuance we need, that is, a specific form of suffering that derives from hopelessness. So let's create a custom field that meets our need. First, we select suffering mental pain, anguished, tormented. Then we combine it with expectation, despairing, hopeless. We can now add the newly created custom field to our list and return to the citation where we can complete the semantic annotation process. Now let's move along to a point where we have annotated all of our citations and see how the annotations we have made can help us in our study. Let's go back to the citation we have just marked up. Here, all the highlighted words have been annotated. We may use these annotations to answer a number of questions. For instance, we may ask if there is a substantial difference between the adjectives used to modify the word refugee and those used for migrant or immigrant. Or we may want to compare the verbs that take refugee, migrant, or immigrant as their object. We can see from our citations here that refugee serves as the object of a variety of verbs ranging from tripping up, filming, and dealing with. Let's explore whether the same applies to migrant or immigrant. To do so, let's go to our linguistic comparison tool. We select the words we want to explore and choose the focus of our comparison. In this case, the verbs that take our words as their object. The chart shows our results. There is a noticeable convergence in the field of movement. After all, this is what the discourse on migration is about. Interestingly, the chart also points to a divergence in the use of immigrant and refugee. In our sources, the word immigrant often serves as the object of negative emotions such as fear, hate, and dislike, while the word refugee is preferred to express a victim of harm. If we wish to view the citations from which this information is drawn, we can click and see the associated passage. On the basis of our annotations, we can also generate data visualizations. The Semantic Tracker offers a range of graphs to display the data extracted from our annotations. Depending on the desired level of granularity, we may want to choose a bar chart, semantic field cloud, or network map. Let's say we are interested in the distribution and semantic relations of migrant, immigrant, and refugee in our citations. Let's select the variables we want to chart and generate the visualization. Here, we see the relative frequencies of our three words on the left. Orange indicates the Daily Mail corpus, and blue, the Guardian. The darker shades represent the articles, and the lighter shades, the user comments. We can see that the word immigrant occurs mostly in the comments, while journalists prefer to use migrant or refugee. We can also see that immigrant has a negative connotation, represented in the chart by the minus icon, while refugee is associated with a positive one. Now let's move to the graph on the right. This chart maps the semantic fields of the words surrounding refugee, migrant, and immigrant in our sources. As expected, movement is the semantic field most frequently associated with all three words. This chart, however, does not communicate the relationships between our words and fields such as movement. If we want to know whether migrant or refugee are the subject or object of movement, then we need to generate a more sophisticated chart, a network map. Let's include syntactic relations as one of our variables and generate the map. Our words are grouped in the three nodes in the center. The lines extending from these nodes represent the syntactic relationships connecting these words to the semantic fields of the surrounding text. Here, for instance, the word migrant is connected to the field of movement by the relation of agency, and to the field of emotion by causality. You may explore this network map further on our website. PTW is a work in progress, and many of the features we have demonstrated here have yet to be implemented. We would be grateful if you could take the time to offer us feedback so that we may develop a resource that matches your translation and research needs. Thank you for your attention and support.
Una pregunta hasta ahí, ¿se entiende de qué se trata? Y como les dije, pues las gráficas están lindas, pero no es la parte más importante, excepto que podría, especialmente las barras, pueden ser muy útiles. Y Adrián se fue, ¿cómo cuánto tiempo tenemos? Yo no me fijé. Ya casi, bueno, entonces lo que les voy a pedir si están interesados. ¿No? ¿Hasta cuándo?
5:25.
Todavía.
Ah, bueno, sí. Pues podemos empezar con la de sánscrito, pero primero lo que les quiero decir es si me...
5:25.
Sí, bueno, si me dan su email, yo les doy los vínculos y lo pueden mirar no pressure whatsoever, y viene con un cuestionario, y entonces pueden responder al cuestionario. Nos preguntan si ha hecho trabajo con lingüística de corpus, si ha hecho trabajo de análisis de discriminación de significados en una palabra, etcétera. Y si piensan que podría ser útil, se imaginan que podría ser algo útil en el trabajo de ustedes. Eso es todo lo que necesitamos saber en términos de lo que quiero que nos digan. Pero además de eso, desde luego, cualquier comentario o cualquier idea que tengan o alguna duda, pues también me lo comunican. ¿Bien? Okay. Y este ejemplo escogimos un ejemplo que fuera sencillo, pero no demasiado sencillo. Empezamos con los sermones del Papa. ¿Por qué? Porque el Vaticano los traduce antes de que se terminen de escribir, que yo estoy seguro que nuestros colegas argentinos saben que se escriben en argentino. Sí, supuestamente la versión oficial es latín, es mentira, él lo escribe en español suyo y entonces se traduce inmediatamente a italiano, hasta árabe, ¿bien? Entonces los coleccionamos y empezamos a jugar con eso, pero nos dimos cuenta que no hay para jugar, o sea, está todo tan controlado, digamos, la manera como se presenta, que no se puede hacer esto de decir, bueno, ¿cómo estamos usando la palabra migrante o inmigrante? ¿Cuáles son las connotaciones? ¿Son negativas o son positivas? ¿No? Pues el Papa se cuida mucho con eso de las connotaciones. Bien, bueno, entonces la de sánscrito desde luego es un poco más compleja y tiene dos ejemplos. Uno es un análisis sintáctico y el otro es un análisis contextual. En ambos casos tiene que ver, desde luego, con traducción, además de análisis lexicológico. ¿Ya? Y es un análisis de la raíz club y sus derivados. El joven que nos sirve de locutor, que tiene una buena voz y así sereno, tranquilo, pues va a decir culp, porque pues, es americano, pero es culp, ¿no? La sílaba u. Y son ejemplos como ¿qué pasa si le pongo vi calpa, si le pongo pari calpa, etcétera? Ese tipo de sutileza. ¿Bien? Así que vamos a ver ese.
Welcome to a demonstration of the meaning mapper, a forthcoming application of the Buddhist Translator's Workbench. We are still far from developing a full user interface, so please note that the following mockups are meant only to illustrate the concept of the mapper and may not reflect the final product. In this video, we will simulate using the meaning mapper to analyze and translate a cluster of Sanskrit words in Buddhist literature. In particular, we will compare the uses of the verbs clip and v-clip. We will first collect and annotate a set of passages illustrating the use of these words in context. We will call these passages citations. We will then use our annotations to generate semantic comparisons and data visualizations. Let's imagine that we are translating a Buddhist text that frequently employs the verb clip and its etymologically and semantically related verbs v-clip and pari-clip, and we want to investigate the difference between them. Our preliminary research shows that sometimes they are used interchangeably or are listed together without any explicit indication of their meaning. Or perhaps one verb is used to gloss the other in a commentary, and we need to determine whether the commentary is introducing a new concept or simply paraphrasing its source. To understand these words successfully, we first must determine how they differ from each other in Sanskrit, and then find English renderings that capture their differences and similarities, or perhaps one that retains their vagueness. How can the meaning mapper help us? First, we create a private account within BTW to use the tool. Once we have accessed the meaning mapper, we need to tell the software which language we are working in and the primary focus of our investigation. In this demo, we want to work with Sanskrit and research the verb clip. We also want to study how v-clip and pari-clip are used. In order to spot semantic differences among these set of verbs, we may wish to also explore the nominal forms kalpana, vikalpa, and parikalpa. Perhaps we also want to take into account Tibetan translations. In that case, we can add Tibetan as another language and include additional words in our study. However, we will not demonstrate this kind of multilingual research in this video. Now that we are clear on the focus of our research, we start collecting citations that illustrate how our words are used in Sanskrit. To this end, we search the texts we want to draw on. For instance, we could query our favorite digitized library of Buddhist Sanskrit literature to find examples of the use of clip and the words you want to compare it with. When we find a citation that we want to use in our study, we can input it into BTW and assign metadata to it. In this way, we gradually create a personal database of citations for our research. Once we have collected and assigned metadata to the citations that we want to study, the tracker organizes them into collections. Let's open the collection that contains citations for the verb clip in sutras. From here, we can start annotating by selecting a word in our text and assigning metadata to it. Various attributes can be found within the menu, such as syntactic relations, conceptual relations, or connotation. We can also import text that has been annotated with other external annotation tools. Let's have a look at the first citation. Here, the meaning of clip is determined by its object shayam. The phrase shayam kalpayati is well recorded in dictionaries as meaning to lie down. To record this information, we need first to mark the syntactic roles of shayam and kalpayati, and then proceed to annotate the meaning of clip in this passage. All our annotations are based on the conceptual categories of the historical thesaurus of English. Let's pause for a moment and take a look at this resource. Like any thesaurus, the historical thesaurus of English lists words by the concepts they express. What makes it unique are its scale and the level of specificity of its conceptual categorization. The historical thesaurus of English arranges all the words contained in the Oxford English Dictionary in a fine-grained conceptual taxonomy that ranges from very general semantic fields such as the world, the mind, and society, to increasingly specific semantic categories. For example, inside the field the world, we find 17 categories, including matter. Inside matter, we find further headings such as color, and inside color, several categories related to pigmentation and chromatic concepts, including the names of the colors like white, black, red, etc. We can even explore further subcategories inside the field white and retrieve concepts such as whitishness, brilliant whiteness, silveriness, etc., containing words like milkiness or ivory. The meaning mapper uses the categories of the historical thesaurus of English to semantically annotate words in virtually any language. Of course, different languages have different conceptual configurations. This is why the meaning mapper offers the possibility of customizing the semantic categories of the historical thesaurus of English to describe the meaning of words in our languages. Let's return to our example and see how we can use the categories of the historical thesaurus of English in BTW to represent the meaning of clip in our citation. We have already pointed out that in this passage, clip takes shayam as its object and has the overall meaning of lying down. Let's open the semantic field workbench and search for a semantic category to represent this meaning. From this workspace, we can query the historical thesaurus of English and view a map of its conceptual taxonomy. Let's start by searching the thesaurus for fields that contain the English words lie down or recline. Our search returns 16 results. We need to choose those that better fit the meaning of clip in our citation. Our passage is about the Buddha, so we should probably discard semantic categories that involve going to bed, abandoning an attempt, or being lazy. Rather, we will most likely choose place, hold body in a relaxed posture, on upon something, and have specific position arrangement, lie down, recline. Both of these semantic fields seem to closely fit the meaning of kalpayati in this citation, so let's add it to a list of potential candidates. To review the list, we go back to the annotation panel of our citation. If we decide that we indeed want to assign the second semantic field to kalpayati, we select it. The semantic annotation of clip in this sentence has been relatively easy, for two reasons. First, the context clearly spells out the meaning of the verb, and second, clip here has a straightforward equivalent in English, to lie down. Our next citation, however, proves more challenging. In this citation, kalpayanti occurs with vikalpayanti. Neither verb takes an object and their meanings remain vague. To study this passage, let's start by noting the syntactic relationship between kalpayanti and vikalpayanti. We select listed with and link it to vikalpayanti. Let's imagine that we have already semantically marked up kalpayanti and proceed to annotate vikalpayanti. We open the semantic field workbench and search for semantic categories that fit the meaning of vikalpayanti in this passage. Let's start by searching for some possible meanings of viclip, the lemmatized form of vikalpayanti, such as conceptualize, discriminate, or categorize. We get 8 results, including form judgment, discriminate, and judge determine, discern, recognize as different. These seem to be good fits, so let's add them to our list for later review. Perhaps perceive, conceive form in the mind is a good candidate to describe the meaning of viclip in our passage, but we're not sure. Let's explore it further to see the words it includes in its specific position in the conceptual taxonomy. Here we see that in the historical thesaurus of English, this category is sandwiched between intuition and imagination, and includes words such as think, suppose, form, etc. We also note that we have already used this category to annotate the verb clip. We may want to differentiate viclip from clip at this point. We may argue, for instance, that viclip denotes a specific aspect of conceived form in the mind, that is a form of mental categorization. The historical thesaurus of English does not have a semantic field for mental categorization, but this is not a problem. With our tool, we can create a custom category to represent this meaning. We do so by combining conceive form in the mind with arrange by kind, categorize. We can find our newly created category in My Fields. From here, we add it to our list and return to our citation. We may decide that form judgment, discern, discriminate, and our customize field capture the meaning of our word. However, we really do not have enough context to be certain about the specific semantic nuance of viclip here. It is good practice, then, to mark these semantic fields as uncertain. Uncertainty takes many forms. In our case, it is due to vagueness, and we select the corresponding option. Now that we have finished annotating this citation, we may want to save our work. The software automatically saves our work on the BTW server, but we may also want to download our annotated citations in order to load them in other applications that process syntactically and semantically annotated documents. Now let's move along to a point where we have completed our annotations. How can they help us in our translation and lexical study?
Como ven, la categoría de incertidumbre se puede definir de más de una manera. No sé si se fijaron, no están muy claras las letras, pero puede incluir cosas como problemas de transmisión textual. O sea, no sabemos si el manuscrito que tenemos es confiable o no. Entonces marco uncertain. Y eso es distinto a si la palabra tiene algún tipo de ambigüedad que es inherente a la palabra, etc. Y no lo demuestra todo, pero hay muchas ventanitas para marcar 1.000.000 de cosas, ¿no? Objeto directo, objeto indirecto, lo que sea. Y claro, la idea es al final tener un catálogo de cómo funciona la palabra, es decir, qué tipo de argumentos tienes, si es un verbo, etcétera, cosas que se van a necesitar para traducir o para hacer un análisis léxico de cómo funciona. ¿No espanta a la gente la traducción? ¿Perdón?
¿No espanta a la gente
no,
de hacer traducción?
Pues yo creo que no, eso es lo que hacemos todos, lo único que esto... Es lo que hacemos todos. Lo que pasa es que aquí es una forma de hacerlo de una forma más sistemática, ¿no? Sí. Bueno, digo, por lo menos en el caso del sánscrito lo hacemos todos, ¿no?
Let's return to the citation we have just marked up. All the highlighted words contain annotations. Besides our usual verbs clip and viclip, the adjective culpica is also highlighted. This passage revolves around a wordplay between the words kalpayanti, vikalpayanti, and kalpika.
Este es un pasaje famoso del Sutra Vimalakirti. Shariputra está visitando a Vimalakirti y se encuentra con la diosa que vive en la casa de Vimalakirti. Entonces Shariputra, que no es un bodhisattva, sino que es un mero monje, cuando entra a la casa, empiezan a llover flores y las flores rebotan cuando le pegan al bodhisattva, pero cuando le pegan al arhat o al monje se le adhieren. ¿Bien? Entonces la preocupación de Shariputra es que eso está feo. Desde luego tiene que ver con las implicaciones de la flor como un símbolo de amor, de deseo, etcétera, ¿ya? De pasión. Y pues Shariputra dice, pero ¿qué pasa? ¿Por qué se me pegan a mí y a los bodhisattvas no? Y entonces dices, es que no es propio, en mi caso, que eso suceda. Un arhat no puede tener una flor aquí, ¿no? Y entonces la palabra que usa es acálpica. Y ahí claramente es en un sentido muy particular. Pero está jugando con esa palabra con los dos sentidos que ya vimos de kalpayati y vikalpayati. Entonces lo que está diciendo es acálpica es impropio, ¿no? Entonces la diosa le va a decir, no es acálpica, es cálpica, es propio. El problema es que tú tienes mucho vikalpa, kalpa, ¿no? Entonces, ¿cómo se va a traducir el juego de palabras si estamos buscando alguna forma de mantener el juego de palabras? ¿Bien?
This pun poses a challenge to translators, as it hinges on a phonetic similarity that is difficult to recreate in English. Let's see how the meaning mapper can help us work on an English rendition of this pun. First, we use our workbench to see which semantic fields we have assigned to the words. Here we find categories pertaining to the sphere of the mind for the verbs kalpayanti and vikalpayanti, and categories pertaining to the fields of propriety, decorum, and morality for the adjective kalpika. To successfully render the pun, we need to find an English word that matches as many of these fields as possible. Here is where the English words listed in the historical thesaurus are especially useful. Let's select all our semantic categories and retrieve the words that the historical thesaurus assigns to them and find which words match multiple semantic fields. Among them, form occurs most frequently and occurs in both the semantic categories pertaining to the mind and those pertaining to decorum. This suggests that the word form could be a useful point of departure for crafting a translation of our Sanskrit pun. Of course, form has many senses in English. This is why it occurs in the majority of our semantic fields. We may want to compare the semantic spectrum of the English word form with the Sanskrit word clip to make sure we do not introduce unwanted shades of meaning in our translation. We can do so by generating a semantic comparison chart with form. Here, we see the semantic fields pertaining to form highlighted in yellow. Let's then add the fields that pertain to clip. Here they are displayed in blue. The green highlighting indicates fields shared by both form and clip. We can see that there is some significant overlap between the two words. We can then proceed and use the word form in our translation. For example, following Luis Gómez's lead, we could translate the pun by rendering clip and v-clip with to form notions and conceptualizations, and kalpika with proper form. The same comparative feature can be applied to Sanskrit words. We can compare the semantic spectrum of two Sanskrit words or use our linguistic annotations for more sophisticated comparisons. For example, we can compare the semantic fields of the objects of clip and v-clip. Let's go to our linguistic comparison tool and select clip and v-clip. If we want to compare the objects these verbs take, we select object patient. On the basis of our annotations, we can see that both verbs govern objects pertaining to the sphere of idea, notion, concept, but only clip takes relative position as its object. If we wish to view the citations this information comes from, we can click and see the associated passage. On the basis of our annotations, we can also generate data visualizations. The meaning mapper offers a range of infographics to display the data extracted from our annotations. Depending on the desired level of granularity, we may want to choose a bar chart, sunburst chart, semantic field cloud, or network map. Let's assume we are interested to see whether there is a noticeable variation in the use of clip in different texts or types of literature, for example in sutras or shastras. To this end, we can choose a bar chart to display the distribution of meanings of clip across source types and texts. To select which variables to include, we use the Tools menu. Let's choose to visualize the frequency of the meanings that the verb clip expresses in all our texts, and add the option of filtering by source type. We have the option of either generating an interactive visualization or a static PDF or PNG image of our chart. Let's generate an interactive visualization. Here we can see that in Abhidharma Kosha, displayed in dark blue, clip takes up meanings ranging from interaction with the material world in the sense of creating, arranging, or assuming a position, to aspects of intellectual activity such as accepting as true and regarding. Let's now visualize the distribution of the meaning of clip by source type. Here, blue represents doctrinal treatise, orange represents literary works, and green represents scripture. Here we can see that the meaning of accepting as true is used in Shastra literature, unsurprising as this meaning is typically associated with argumentation. If we want to narrow the comparison to just two texts, we may want to choose the Sunburst Chart. For example, let's compare the uses of Vikalpa in Abhidharma Kosha and Bodhisattva Bhumi. Let's generate the visualization. In this chart, we can see in yellow the semantic categories that Vikalpa expresses in the Abhidharma Kosha, and in blue, those that it expresses in the Bodhisattva Bhumi. The fields in green correspond to the meanings shared between the two texts. So far, we have visualized only the meaning of words in texts. If we want to visualize more complex relations between words and the surrounding text, we can generate network maps. Network maps can show syntactic relationships as well as semantic shifts between the meaning a word has in a source text and the way it is glossed in commentaries. Examples of interactive network maps are provided on our website. BTW is a work in progress, and many of the features we have demonstrated here have yet to be implemented. We would be grateful if you could take the time to offer us feedback by following the URL on the screen, so that we may develop a resource that matches your translation and research needs. Thank you for your attention and support.
La última gráfica que aparece es muy interesante. Eso lo hizo Ligea porque ella trabaja en esa literatura en particular. Entonces no se ve muy claro, pero hay una de esas pelotitas que es el comentario y otra que es el texto original. Y fíjense lo lejos que están y los pocos vínculos que hay. O sea que la misma palabra. Está bueno. Entonces, el comentario está usando la misma palabra con un significado distinto para explicar la palabra en el original, ¿no? Eso no hay que ser postmodernista para saber que eso pasa todo el tiempo, ¿no? Pero aquí se ve claramente. Además, en la versión final que no la tengo yo, es posible mover las esferas para ver diferentes relaciones, o sea, cambiar la relación o la jerarquía en los significados. ¿Alguna pregunta?
Yo creo que Óscar necesita poner a bastar y
sí. Y por cierto, la base de datos nuestra va a ser grande, por eso se tarda tanto. O sea, ya lleva 2 años, ¿no? Pero se puede hacer una base de datos limitada, ¿no? Por ejemplo, tú podrías hacer una con tu texto solamente. Podrías hacer tu base de datos.